Dr. Rashad Richey, a guy I've been talking about for a long time, and I regard him as one of the biggest race baiters that I've ever seen online. There was recently a video by Cam Jones that suggested a lot of his degrees are fake, which wasn't surprising to me, not because of suspicions about his degrees, but just the guy seems kind of shady, especially with his dishonest tactics regarding talking about race. And here we stand looking at this 800 Jonesboro Road location, which is a location that the doctor has a vested interest in, but it's also a location for a supposed company that he used to verify his credentials. So he verified his credentials using a company that's based out of a location at which he's a co-owner. Now, I think James maybe jumped a little bit to conclusions, and he said that the company that supposedly did the credentials is a company that he owns. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but I'm not going to go beyond what the facts show. And the fact of the matter is, based on what I've seen, he has a business relationship of some sort with this company that he used to verify his credentials, which in itself is shady, but I don't know that he actually owns the business. But let's take a look at the Cam Jones video for a second.
Now, this is from the National Private Investigation and Intelligence Firm that specializes in credential evaluation.
The National Intelligence and Investigation Firm he's referring to is the NPII. I found their website, and I saw this address in the contact section. It matches the one he lists for his various businesses. This printout is from the fake college he created. That's coming later. So he owns the firm he's citing to investigate his credentials? You're investigating yourself, like the cops. Need another piece of evidence? A viewer sent me this, a PR.com listing for the business NPII with his email address as the primary. I can't make this up. I'm not creative enough. I elaborated on the fake websites he's created to bolster his credentials in my first video. This crazy long article published by his fake propaganda site, Science News Watch, was found by the fake PhD investigator. He uncovered that a woman named Crystal Bowie, another media figure who retired from being a reporter to move into running a PR firm called Spotlight Communications Group, remember that name, helped him create a network of fake sites. How do we know these sites are owned by Rashad and his associate Crystal?
Doctor of Jurisprudence degree, is from an accredited university, and is considered a qualifying law degree.
Private intelligence agency would not generate a report that drowns us in a Wikipedia article list of famous people that attended this university in order to help us believe them.
BHU holds multiple accreditations, including TRACS, Transnational Association of Christian Colleges and Schools, and accreditor recognized by the United States Department of Education.
BHU is TRACS accredited. That is true. I acknowledged that in my first video, and I took a shot at TRACS because although it's qualified with the Department of Education as a national accreditor, it's based on Christian colleges. Unless your degree is in theology, I don't see the point of touting a Christian accreditor as the credentials you need for your degree to be relevant.
Also, I completed a one-year program in neuroscience. That was a 45 credit program, I believe, maybe a 41. It was a 40 credit program. So in that program, analyzed it.
Nah, you mean you analyzed it.
Richey completed a one-year 40 credit Master of Science in Neuroscience at the Universidad del Pacifico de Nicaragua. This was their international program for American students.
The University of Pacific, UNIP, I covered this in my first video. This is a fake school, and I stand by that. All of their partner universities on the site are also fake schools. These doctors he's naming right now on screen, the only thing that comes up for any of these names in connection to UNIP is a puff piece published by one of the sites that you allegedly own based on all the research I talked about in video 1. Riddle me this. Why exactly does this chunk of text from this random article match this report from NPI?
All right, so I'm going to put a link to the video. You can take a look at the full video yourself and judge for yourself. But I wanted to take a look at this NPII situation. And what I found was interesting. So here's the website. First impression, looks very fake, very generic. Not a lot of time and effort was put into developing this website. For a 2026 website, yeah, not a good look. I guess we could take a look. Look at this, the weird stock photos. And there, of course, is the address. Now I'm going to do a quick and very crude analysis of the website beyond what we just did. Let's do this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm scanning the website to see any evidence that this is just a fake generic website. This is not, I'm not going to, go too much into this, but I'm going to at least give it a shot. Let's just see if anything comes up. It'd be interesting if my very, very sort of crude search finds anything, because that's not a good look if it was easy to identify some strange things about it. So checking online for any credibility information, Scam Advisor. So the site has a low trust score. I wonder why. So it passed a very basic analysis. Didn't find any generic text on it. That's a very low bar, by the way. If you're doing a fake website and you got generic Ipsum, whatever text on there. Several red flags. It has a trust score of 0. Very young website. Low traffic. Registered in February 2024. Expired last February. Doesn't sound right. So there's no links back to the page. It's not being talked about anywhere. The phone number and the page are not on other pages. So it's like in a vacuum. There's no Better Business Bureau, no Yelp, no LinkedIn, no news articles. So it doesn't appear to exist outside of the website itself. So this address, this alley at Lakewood, from what I'm seeing, it appears that Dr. Rashad is a co-owner of that. So he's basically the landlord of the building that I showed in the beginning of this video. So he's a landlord, or a co-owner at least, trying to stay within the facts and not try to go beyond what I know. Co-owner of this building with another guy by the name of Ali, even though Ali is one of Dr. Rashad Richey's names. Apparently Ali is from his partner. Coincidence, perhaps? But put everything aside that I've said and shown you so far. Think about the idea of someone's challenging your credentials. And to prove that your credentials are legit, you reference an article of some sort or documentation of some sort produced by a company that essentially they have some business relationship with you. I would assume they are a tenant. So Dr. Rashad Richey has a tenant, I believe, or at least some business relationship, because they're in this building, which he apparently is a co-owner of. Now, just think about this logically. Why would a legit Dr. Rashad Richey have to use a company within the same building that he has his businesses to verify his legitimacy? All of Atlanta, Georgia, all of the United States of America, different sources, different websites to verify credentials. And he has to choose one in a location that he has a business relationship in. I mean, even if this is a legit company, him being as intelligent as he presents himself with all these doctorates and whatever, should be smart enough to know that this would be found out. Again, this is assuming that this is legit. If this is a legit company, and him being as smart as he's supposed to be, he would have to have predicted that once people start opening up the floodgates of looking into you, it's not going to stop. So they're going to find out that this agency is located in this building that you have a relationship with, and that's a bad look. Again, we're presuming that it's a legit company. Even if it's a legitimate company, it looks really suspicious. So why would you... So the legit Dr. Rashad Richey, that's as smart as he presents himself to be, knowing that there's a company in here, a legit company that can verify his credentials, would refrain from using it because of how it would look. Right? And if he's legit, he would have a lot of other options of being able to prove his credentials. He wouldn't have to use one that could be so easily connected to him and would just make things look worse, because this looks really shady. So again, even if it's legit, why would he use it, right? This at a minimum is kind of a hit to his intelligence and capabilities and competence, right? Because for those of people who are going to believe that this is legit, again, this is bad judgment, major bad judgment. If I were him and I knew this company building that I have to, business relationship with, my first thought would be like, oh, I can't use this. I know they say, what is it, 2020 hindsight, whatever. So anyway, the site lists the address 1800. This address is a multi-user, which advertises 6,000 square foot. There's no mention of private firm address. That's another thing I noticed. When we go to the actual location here, it's interesting that it picked up on that. That's something I noticed as well. When I was walking around this building, I noticed that there's a sign of companies that are in there. And these are companies that, when you look online, they keep coming up associated with this address. The Ali, whatever, and the Love Connection, the Black Coffee. In fact, I saw the Black Coffee. They posted up this thing where, what do you know? There's the Black Coffee thing. And who do you think this is? Who does that look like? Right? Who does that look like? And what does it say? Very special thanks to our Omar Ali, right? That's the Ali in the name. Dr. Rashad Richey, Killer Mike, and our sponsor, and our super dope team. I want to make a couple of quick additional notes. So this is the Ali Lakewood website today. I want you to take notice of this. And remember what I said about it's the preponderance of evidence, right? It's not just any one thing. It's why are there so many red flags? So it says now open, right, in 2026. Over 6,000 square feet still available. Who cares, right? Like what are you're reaching? What are you trying to make a scandal out of this tan suit statement? Well, if you go back to the Wayback Machine and you look at this website in 2020, right? So 6 years ago. So this is August of 2020. Coming soon, over 6,000 square feet still available. So they've been there in business since at least 2020, and for 6 years, they've had exactly 6,000 square feet still available. Now, it could be that they just failed to update the website, or it could be that that's just how it is. They've got enough tenants, hopefully, to be able to stay in business, and there's a couple of units or whatever it is that amounts to that have been vacant for 6 years, and they just can't find anyone to fill them. Or this might be yet another clue of just something looking very shady. Now, the NPII website, I saw a similar pattern. The website, when it was created in 2024, it seems to be almost identical to what it is today. Now, you'd think over time the website would change. Like, that's how normally a website is, right? When you create a new website, you have this initial design, and then you find issues, and you may want to add things to it and modify it as the business grows, right? I mean, the idea that you start a business, you create a website, and then that's it, you just lock it in. Anyone that's ever created a website for business purposes, you know how it works, right? It's generally not something that just sits there static. And at least not an active website that you're actively using for a business, because businesses change, especially in the first few years. You're going to make a lot of different changes. And if you don't, you're probably not going to be in business for a few years. So just something else I wanted to point out. What I found also interesting is some other people who were here. Well, Killer Mike was mentioned before. I've heard some things about him, but this is another story. Look at what we have here. Does that guy look familiar? Somebody's going to make fun of me about that one. And then we have this person. Very, very interesting indeed. But anyway, when I walked around, again, I saw all these companies associated with the building, but not this investigation company. So the investigation company lists its address as this same address. The same address that Rashad Richey has a business interest, supposedly co-owner of this building. Therefore, the investigative company would be a tenant, but they're a tenant that's not listed here. Now, think about this. This is an investigation company that is orphaned in some way. You don't see any chatter online. No one's talking about them. They're not listed anywhere, official businesses or anything like that. The website has low traffic. So it's a low traffic website that no one's talking about. No one knows about. There's no mention of it anywhere. It's not even mentioned in its actual location. This is the registered location of that business, right? And even at its own physical location, it's still not referenced. It's as if it only exists online on that web page. It's isolated. It doesn't have business connections in terms of customers, right, who are talking about it and things like that. and it doesn't even have a place in the real world. Where's their physical office, right? Now, if I'm biased, I'm going to jump on that as 100% proof of something, but as my subscribers know, I try to be as objective as possible. So the objective approach is, just because they don't have a name there doesn't mean that they're not officially here. They may not, all the companies here may not actually have signs in the front, or maybe the signs on the other side or somewhere else, or they just don't have a sign. It's a private investigator trying to have a low profile. They're just renting literally a small office in this building somewhere, right? But the way I would respond to that is that I'm not having a problem with any one detail. It's the preponderance of evidence. This is the same way, this is something I've talked about on my channel before. I'm going to presume that someone in the state that I'm in right now was murdered today. I mean, that's just a thing. It's unfortunately a thing that happened. The fact that I'm in that same state as someone that got murdered is evidence that I committed the murder, right? It's horrible evidence, right? Because if that's all you got, that's not really going to hold up in court, but it is evidence, right? Because I am physically in a location where I could presumably go and do that, right? So just by proximity, that is evidence. But to win a case, to convict me, you need more than that, right? It's like I'm in the same state. The person who got murdered, I've been having a beef with, right? Someone saw me at that same location yesterday, and I looked suspicious, and I was kind of lurking around, hanging around. They found some shoe prints that match a shoe that I wear. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? So it's not just, oh, they don't have a sign here, so they're guilty. It's not just, oh, it's the same address as Rashad Richey, so therefore guilty. No, it's all these details that, like, why, if he is innocent, and you know what? I'm going to apply the same standard to Donald Trump, right? We could say with the Epstein files. It's possible that he hasn't done anything with any underage women or otherwise, anything illegal with Epstein, right? However, the way things have presented themselves is almost exactly the way it would if he was guilty, right? His actions, the actions of his allies, the information that's come out, and it's just detail after detail after detail. If we took it to court, it's kind of like, okay, right? It's not just one thing, not just because he was friends, not just because he said, I wish her well, you know, but it's all these things. It's adding up to why on earth in a universe where Trump is innocent would we have all this evidence that's saying otherwise? Why on earth in a universe where Dr. Rashad Richey is innocent would we have all these red flags, all this suspicious behavior? That's the question ultimately that I think. So, is he a fraud? Just because I actually believe in having integrity, I know it's a world where people just say whatever and do whatever. I would need to spend considerably more time than this to actually use those words. I realize that my tone implies I believe he is, and I do. But me believing that he's a fraud and calling him a fraud, I mean, I'll call him a fraud on race baiting, right? I've seen enough evidence on that. I've been watching him for years. He's absolutely a race baiter. He's absolutely dishonest. That I will say with no hesitation. But to call him a fraud in terms of, you know, his degrees and all this kind of stuff, and this is something I try to teach my subscribers, right? Objective thinking, critical thinking, you know, and analysis. I've seen a lot of suspicious stuff from, like, Cam James. He did a video talking about him, and it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good in terms of building a case against him, but I would need to spend time and look into it, like kind of how I looked into these details. I would need to do more of this and look into the different universities, the claims that were made, accusing him, before I would call him a fraud on this. My instincts tell me that most of the claims made against him are probably accurate. But again, I would want to confirm myself before I make. One of the big red flags in the video was when he started talking about, was it Clark Atlanta University or something like that? That university was not mentioned. Someone makes a video saying that you have all these fake degrees and they mention all these universities that they say is fake. And your response video starts with a university that wasn't mentioned and you spend considerable time talking about the university that was never mentioned. No one ever challenged that university or the degree from that university. So why is he starting his video talking about that? Like, why would an innocent Dr. Rashad Richey do something like that? Why wouldn't you start the video talking about some of the actual claims being made? I mean, the guy, even mentioned in the end of his video that he believes Dr. Rashad Richey definitely has a couple degrees, right? So mentioning the Clark University thing did nothing to challenge the claims made against him. So why would he do that? A guy with all these degrees, once again, I mean, if you have all these degrees and you're a pretty smart guy, right? So, and then I think he has a legal background, all this kind of stuff. So he should know, and we've seen him do debates, he should have basic skills of argumentation. And it's kind of like, if someone mentions 15 degrees that are fake and 15 different schools that are fake, I'm not saying that's literally what was done, but generally, right? Why would your response begin with talking about a university that wasn't mentioned? When you can't even say, well, I just wanted to make sure that, it's clear that I actually do have a degree. When that person admitted you have a degree. Like, what is happening? So I'm very, very suspicious. I was already suspicious because of the race baiting stuff and the dishonest content, the clickbaity stuff. And it's a shame because when I first discovered him a few years ago, I think it was, I was very happy. I was like, this guy's great. He was doing these great debates. And he was just no nonsense and very skilled debater. And then I quickly started noticing the typical pattern of propagandists. And then I started noticing he's all about this race baiting thing. And it's all commercial. It's all about trying to get that bag. And I have a distaste for that, just like I do when I see the right-wingers doing it. Now, I think the work that he's doing that I've seen is certainly a lot better than the typical thing you would see in right-wing media. I mean, they're just bottom of the barrel. But it's not a competition, right? As I always say, it's not a competition. I don't care that his content is way better than the typical right-wing parasite. These influencers, right? The Tim Pools and the Steven Crowder. I don't care that Dr. Rashad Richey, any day, 10 times better than these guys. And it's not about ideology, right? It's not about, I agree with Dr. Rashad Richey's ideology. It's just, I think his main thing is making money from the race-based issues. He's sloppy with the truth. A white cop shoots a so-called black guy, and it's like automatically, this guy is racist. And it's just he's just being sloppy and loose with it. Somebody like Steven Crowder, I think overtly, right? He's saying things that he knows are not true. Intentionally, just all about that bag. In contrast, I think Dr. Rashad Richey, at least in his content talking about race, I don't think he goes out to, like he sees something that's not racist and he's going to go and say it is racist. I just think he doesn't really care enough, right? He's comfortable making something about race that may not necessarily be about race. Smart enough to know that this cop might not be racist, but he's kind of like, who cares, right? The audience is going to like it. I'm going to get my clicks. Anyway, those are my thoughts. This is Baby Channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe. Until next time. Again, go take a look at the original video. Tell me your thoughts.